Thank you for having us. So what I'm going to talk about in hopefully 8 minutes is a little bit the changes we see in the payments market and our priorities for those changes. I think one of the first changes we're seeing is really the change in the selling environment. We've really going away from the physical commerce where shops were selling something from 10 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock in the afternoon to increasingly going online. And I think we who work on payments all the time, we might think that the payments component of the shopping is a really central element. But I think if you have a little bit of perspective, if I would ask my mom, for example, she would probably say that the payments component is probably annoying at best. And as a consumer, what you really want, in addition to payments being safe, you want them to be easy and seamless. We have some statistics from Edgar Dunn that shows that merchants who get this balance right between safety and ease of use, they can increase their conversion rates of between 15 and 20%. I mean, that's huge. That's increased sales. That's commerce happening. So even though maybe the payments component is not the central element, it is a very important element of commerce. So this demand that consumers have for seamless, easy, and safe solutions, it drives this competition. It drives competition for different ways of making payments, whether that's card-based payments, it's instant payments, it's payments on invoice, or any other kind. It also drives competition for innovation, and innovation within the different kinds of making payments. In our space, we of course work a lot on different solutions to connecting consumers and merchants in safe and convenient ways. And we were very pleased to see that our work was recognized and noticed. I think it was a little bit over a year and a half ago, we were included on the Forbes list of the world's most innovative companies, so we must be doing something right. I think the upside is really what we talked about, this increased competition, the increased innovation. But I think, as Helmut mentioned earlier today, the downside could be that it leads to increased fragmentation and increased complexity, which in its turn could lead to more, let's say, exposure to fraud. And I think we all know that fraud, or probably rather so the fear of fraud, has a huge negative impact on commerce, and e-commerce in particular. What we're doing, therefore, is that we're working very much to try to find solutions to safety, and a very important part of safety and security, of course, is the authentication of the person making the payment. And here, we're all moving away from passwords to biometrics. And MasterCard, we are working on a number of solutions here to authentication, but the obvious ones that you know about is like fingerprints, iris scans, facial recognition. And if you combine that with kind of behind-the-scenes technologies like cryptology and tokenization, we're really convinced that we're going to be able to really move the needle on safety and security, and also to reduce fraud, while at the same time providing what the consumers want, the ease and the seamlessness of the payments. So to see whether the solutions we're developing are making sense to consumers, what we've done is we run a number of consumer tests. And we got 4 interesting learnings from these consumer tests. The first thing that consumers told us was that 9 out of 10 consumers feel that biometric authentication is more safe than password-based ones. That's one. The second one is, out of the consumers who have tried a biometric authentication, 90% wanted that instead of a password-based solution. The third thing we found was that 3 out of 4 consumers believe that biometric authentication will significantly reduce fraud. And the fourth thing we found was in relation to the speed of the authentication. And here we compared fingerprints to passwords, and we saw that fingerprints were 49% faster than passwords. If you then add all this to the recent legislative changes we've seen in Europe, and there have been, I would say, quite a few in a short period of time, that all generates a lot of change that payments have to live within. I think the upside of the legislative changes we're seeing in Europe is that we're getting legal certainty. And I think legal certainty is very essential if you're going to make investments and if you're going to make R&D decisions about the future of payments. So that, I would say, it's really an upside. I'm going to finish a little bit on wrapping all this up together, all these changes, and I think the PSD2 and the RTSs on strong authentication, I think they really get to all these cumulative changes I talked about: competition, innovation, safety, ease of use, legislation. We as MasterCard, who have our roots in card payments, we welcome PSD2. We see it as an opportunity. We have lots of internal discussions, and we see it as an opportunity. The RTSs on the strong customer authentication, we as MasterCard, we broadly welcome them. We think that we're starting to hit the gold middle ground. That said, as always, we have a couple of comments, and I'm going to finish on 3 high-level comments on the strong customer authentication. The first one is that MasterCard, those of you who know MasterCard, we're obsessed by level playing field, equal terms of conditions. And here, there is the issue of the whitelisting of trusted beneficiaries. Our understanding of the draft as it stands is that that is extended to certain kind of payments. We feel that it should also be extended to cards. We think that legislation needs to be technology neutral. We need to think that it needs to be business model neutral. So that's one point we would make: equal treatment. The second point is in relation to commercial cards. Largely, we feel that a strong customer authentication approach for commercial cards makes sense, absolutely. But there is a subset within commercial cards where we think strong customer authentication should not necessarily be required. And that is, okay, we have a very long and complicated name for that internally, but let me give you an example. It's going to be easier. We MasterCard employees, and you, we travel a lot. Plane tickets, train tickets, hotels. We then pay for those with our commercial cards. But we don't make the bookings ourselves. We don't make the payments. So we delegate this to an agent. In our case, it's a travel agency. Carlson Wagon-Lee, by the way. I hope I didn't really reveal any secrets. But they book our travel. So they book our flights with Air France, with Brussels Airlines, our hotel nights at Radisson or whatever. They use our commercial cards to do that. And the people that we book with are known and trusted, let's say, recipients. And we feel, because the fraud is very low, therefore, that those could be transactions that could be exempt. But we're okay with strong customer authentication applying to commercial in general. The last point, and I'm finishing with this, and that is about who should have the final say in applying strong customer authentication. In our opinion, it should be the payer's PSP that should have the final say. And if you agree with that principle, then it's essential that the payee's PSP needs to enable the payer's PSP to do so. Therefore, in our opinion, the payee's PSP should always initiate a transaction information flow to make that happen. So I know you were saying that we're almost there, but there might be some small scope for changes. So those are our suggestions, Philip. So thank you very much.